The region of the Ural Mountains in Russia is still largely unexplored. The weather is cold. It is home of a number of nature reserves, which are not at all populated. There is no infrastructure, no roads. And it's not a surprise that only in recent years photos and footage of the megaliths of Ural is available to us. And in this video, I will present a very short overview of some of the megaliths. It all started with tourists who by chance found blocks with very regular right angles and parallelepiped shape out in the wild, where no human civilization have ever supposed to have existed according to the official Russian history. Large number of blocks have all these very right angles, and moreover they are perfectly polished. Only the surface that has been exposed to the erosion on the outside is overgrown with this green moss, and the surfaces that were inside and were somewhat protected from the weather erosion, those are so smooth that the green moss didn't have anywhere to stick and did not cover them. Besides stones with numerous right angles, number of stones have been found with cuttings, machine-made cuttings, that suggest the usage of very advanced technology. Again, this is usually some 100 kilometers away from any road or any known human activity, and often the cuttings in the stone are so deep that there is no question of any scientist in recent times going there and taking some sample, for example, because in our current civilization we do not have portable tools that could leave this type of marks, for example the ones that you see on this particular photo. If these cuttings resemble anything, that would be other historic masonry work. For a comparison, you can see photos of some ancient stone cuttings found in Cambodia and some found in Russia. They are quite similar, actually. Not only the type of tools that left these marks are similar, but even the design of some of the stones, we can see some resemblance even in the design. On this comparison photo, on the left hand side, you see a fragment of Cambodian archaeological site that is currently located in a military zone, so these are rare photos. And on the right hand side you see some fragments of stones found in Ural. At various locations in the Ural Mountains there are kind of stone circles which nobody has researched until now. After all, it is actually a month of very difficult mountain walking to even reach those areas. There are no roads around there. Also, at a number of locations, very regular shaped piles of rubble can be found. Again, sorry for repeating myself, but this is usually some few hundred kilometers away from any road or any human known activity whatsoever, really out there, completely in the wild, very cold area. Hardly even any local tribes would venture in these particular regions. And these piles of rubble consist actually of very regularly shaped stones that really must have come out as a result of some sort of machine work. The official explanation given to the public by the science is that the glaciers brought this uh, pile of matter from somewhere. However, this seems quite ridiculous because glaciers don't pile up um, in regular shapes just in selected areas. They tend to scatter. Also, glaciers are not known to have the ability to select only stones with uniform size and arrange them into geometric hills, as you can see on the photo. Actually, some people suggest that there could be some sort of buildings buried underneath these mountains of rubble. And by the way, what you see around the rubble is not grass, these are trees. So we are talking about really large hills, minimum 20-30 meters of height, some of them much higher. So what is this? Is this a result of is it the leftover product of a mining activity done by civilization unknown to us, or are there really buildings buried underneath? Yeah, just too many unanswered questions. And another photo, again from the Ural Mountains. Besides the beautiful rocks on the front, if you look at the mountain range on the back, one of the peaks is actually black. And it has quite a regular shape. Actually, this is a black pyramid and is made out of quartzite. A number of researchers have attempted to get nearby. However, really many of them tell about meetings with very strange entities in a broad daylight, some of them. And these entities were not did not advise the researchers to get nearer to the pyramid, and that is why it is still largely unexplored. Here are a few more photos of this black pyramid made of quartzite. Quartzite, I'm not sure how it is pronounced. The material itself has very peculiar qualities, and it tends to store static electricity and release it in the atmosphere only when certain conditions are present. You saw kind of an entry at the foot of this pyramid, and this is supposed to be some sort of a mine, maybe. However, Nikolai Subotin, the gentleman that you see lecturing on the subject, he made his best to find any information of any mining activity. However, nothing like this has been recorded anywhere in the region nearby for the last couple of 100 years. So that entry inside is also a mystery. And now we are off to the next destination. The next megalith is a large wall, the height of a 12-storied building, and its sides point exactly to north and south. The location is called Chortovoye Городище. It is located in Sverdlovskaya Oblast, and it's actually only 6 kilometers away from a village, so it is accessible. On this photo you see the blocks that that comprise the foundation of the building. It is a building, it's got 4 lines of such blocks all along its base. And also on this photo you can see how in between some of the stone blocks that were used in the construction, one can still see some sort of a binding building material that was used in between the stones by the ancient masons. All around you can see the building blocks that were used in the construction. They are very well shaped, having the form of parallelepiped, so there is no question of some strange geological formations. This is a wall made of standardly shaped stone blocks. Around the wall you can see, similar to the one on the photo, megalithic structures that look as if like entries leading to underground tunnels or something like that, which has not been excavated till date. And we are off to the next archaeological site that is called Popov Ostrov in the same district of Russia, Sverdlovskaya Oblast. Popov Island is the translation of the name. Over there one can see a number of stones that bear obvious signs of human activity. For example, here you can see staircase. Obviously this is not a natural phenomenon. However, nobody knows what civilization has ever lived anywhere around here. Please pay attention to the picture down right with the round holes there. Very similar type of holes have been observed on megalithic sites all over the world, and all these sites that have this type of holes are destroyed as if by a war or some sort of military means, some sort of weapon. And we are off to our next destination, an archaeological site that has been discovered actually in the autumn of 2013. The name is Gornaya Shoria. And what is very remarkable about this site that although until now Baalbek was famous as having the biggest megalithic stones known to us, actually now the situation has changed, because the stones in Gornaya Shoria would be roughly 10 times bigger. Although the site is still very young, we cannot talk of any detailed research. But the general feeling one gets is that this is a classic example of the so-called melted stones theory for making the megalithic structures. By visiting there, one really gets the feeling that as if the stones were soft when they were placed next to each other. And again, very similar to the previous site, around this one there are sort of tunnels leading nobody knows where, but they are around the main structure. And another parallel with the Peruvian megaliths are locations with molten stone. The stone appears that has melted. However, nobody can explain how exactly that happened. And by the way, since we talk about molten rocks, let's go to Sodom and Gomorrah, the legendary cities. That's what you see at the moment on the screen. Let's go there and see if we can find some parallels, because that east side where there is plenty of molten stone as well. At some location, the granite has it is molten deep 50 centimeters. You can just imagine what kind of temperature must have occurred somehow or other to melt a stone so deep. Those of you who are into Bible reading will probably remember what the so-called gods did to Sodom and Gomorrah. They destroyed them by throwing fire and sulfur from the skies. That's what the Bible says. And the modern excavations done some 10 years ago really found balls of sulfur that have literally bombed the city from above. Now, the interesting things about these balls, you can see them on the photos, they are kind of white and they leave on the stone those circular damages. They are with the purity of the sulfur above 90%, while in nature the sulfur is found with purity as a mineral with purity between 30 and 40%. So obviously the sulfur that rained from the skies was technologically produced substance. The full area of Sodom and Gomorrah is just full of these white balls, and this is a very important artifact actually of an ancient weapon that was used. And by the way, the round formations found in Ural, maybe you remember they were on the screen a few minutes ago. It's more likely that they had some sort of similar origin, although the official science says that everything that has round shaped and is carved in the stone is some sort of sacrificial vessel for the blood of the victims, although there is no factual evidence to support such statements. Although they tell us this, in this case we see destroyed structures and similar signs of damages. Similar parallels could be made for archaeological sites all around the world: South America, Sodom and Gomorrah, and Ural. So the version that actually these are traces of ancient weapons has much more factual support. At the moment on the screen you see photos taken from various locations all around the earth, showing similar damages, balls hitting the stone and melting it. So who knows, we can definitely make a hypothesis here that these were some of the weapons by which this destruction of number of ancient megalithic sites occurred. And another interesting location again in Ural. What is this? Is it a natural formation, or maybe when the rocks were molten, one of the giants about which the legends tell us stepped there? We don't know. Another interesting location in Ural Mountains is Divaya Peshera. Although this cave is not yet studied completely, the number of witnesses who report meeting dwarf-like creatures around it is really overwhelming. And the people who report these sightings are actually very reliable and honest people, and it is really, really many of them. One thing always puzzles me greatly: the fact that being a witness in court, if many reliable citizens swear that they have seen something that is taken to be truth, and evidence is accepted as evidence of many reliable people is definitely accepted as a sign of truth. And yet in other cases, when many reliable witnesses swear that they have seen other things which do not fit the official history or the official picture of reality that the mass media is implanting in us, then people very naively believe the mass media that this is all some fantasy. So this naivety of most people is really puzzling to me. Another artifact from the region, which is kept in a small regional museum, this is a human tooth. The tests show that it is human, there is no doubt about it. However, the strange thing about it that is 1.5 times the size of normal human teeth. So the ancient legends about giants, and we have many of them in this region, could be actually the truth. Another small mystery from the region of the Ural Mountains. This is ancient sign. It usually means the female beginning. It's a sign of a woman. It actually sticks out of the stone, and it's not even stone. It looks like a stone, but in reality it is some sort of metal. And when Nikolai Subbotin tried to take a small sample of the material, he actually broke his instruments. And on this second photo, you can see how like part of the stone has been kind of modified, made of different material, so that this picture of a lady or something like that sticks out. And this is a map where some of the locations are of the mentioned sites are shown on the map. And by the way, somewhere in this area years ago, they tried to build a small military something, and somehow they selected the place, and the local shamans told them that this is a sacred place and they should not put anything there. But who listens to them, of course? And they built their whatever base there. But it was such a disaster. Practically every month they needed to completely redo their electric wiring, because the full place, the full area was just electrocuted. I'm not sure how to say. They had the feeling that they're sitting on a big power generator. Everything that they were trying to touch was getting with static electricity sticking to their hands. All their equipment was constantly going out of order, and in actually few months they were forced to leave the place. It was simply not possible to do anything there because of the static electricity, which was just everywhere. Yet another site in the area, although at this point there are no specific reasons to claim that this is man-made and that these are remains of some old civilization, keeping in mind what we saw before, we could say that actually at this point we are not sure, is this a natural formation or just another remains of an ancient structure? Another interesting thing in Ural are a number of leveled platforms. They look as if somebody has cut the peak of a mountain and has turned it into a leveled platform the size of, let's say, 4 football fields. The platforms are not only perfectly leveled, but also they are cleaned of any large or medium stones. Unfortunately, the photos of these platforms are not very clear, but still, if you pay attention, you will notice something. These are areas that are very hard to access. So one needs to really walk very many days on a very inhospitable and cold mountain terrain. And now we are off to our next location in again in the Ural region. I couldn't find much information about this site, so I will just let you enjoy the photos yourself. And maybe this is also remains from some ancient structure. Our next destination in the Ural region is Ostrov Verej. That is an island, and there are remains of an ancient megalithic complex that continues actually underwater. Again, nobody knows anything about who built. Yet another site without information attached. Everybody knows that this is very ancient, but that's all we know. It is quite a huge painting. The green things you see around it is not grass, these are trees. It is actually so big that it is visible as an image only from the space, only from above. And what is depicted on it is actually a local animal, elf-like animal. And we are off to our next destination. It's again a gigantic wall. It is called Arahulski Shaitan, and it is in the districts of Chelyabinsk, again in the region of Ural. Here we have ongoing archaeological work. The style is, as you can see, very similar to some other locations. At its highest point, this wall is actually 80 meters high, which means a 30-storied building. At places, it is the panoramic view from the top of this amazing wall is actually just breathtaking and absolutely amazing. That's how people describe it. Well, thank you for listening. I hope it has been interesting for you. You can find some other unique videos on my channel. And by the way, most of the information in this particular video has been taken from a lecture of the researcher Nikolai Subotin. The first link in the description is a link to his lecture. What I presented is really maybe hardly a fourth of the information he gave. So those who are interested can learn much more from the Russian original.